Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Very delighted to be here. Thank you, Judy, for that wonderful introduction. It just brings back so many memories to be here. It was only 5 years ago. Seems like a blur, but I'm very delighted to be here and be sharing this important day with you. So I'm a math person, and I can tell you that there is a 0% chance that I would be where I am professionally and personally doing what I'm doing without the Anderson MBA experience. I'm so grateful for what I learned and gained here, and I want to try today in just a few minutes to tell you what I learned here and to connect you all to a way of thinking that I hope will help you reach the highest impact that you can have going forward. First of all, some background. I am born and raised in Alabama, a blue-collar background. My father was an electrician at coal plants and nuclear plants. My mother was a homemaker. Growing up, I loved math, and so when I wanted to go to college, I wanted to go to places like Northwestern. But my family didn't have a lot of money, and I knew my father was terrified of debt. And rather than make him spend all those years not sleeping at night, worrying about it, I said, okay, I'll take a scholarship to the University of Alabama. So those football fans, a little Roll Tide for that. But so I went to Alabama and had a wonderful experience there, including getting to do some undergraduate research, which made a huge difference in my life and career. So when I decided to go to graduate school, I knew I wanted to study computer science, which had been my minor at Alabama. And I applied for and set my mind that I was going to go to some place like Duke or Georgia Tech. But I had always liked the idea of going to Caltech, despite the fact I'd never set foot in California. I filled out an application, and then I made a mistake. I called the computer science department at Caltech and spoke to the receptionist, and I said, so how many applications do you get a year? And how many people do you accept? And she said something close to thousands of applications, and we accept something like 10. Okay, this is a note to self, note to you. Just don't ask the odds in that kind of circumstance. It does not help you to know the odds. It does not help you move forward. So all my applications to places like Duke and Georgia Tech had been perfectly typed and probably ironed the paper. And I remember sitting in a diner at Caltech with my application to Caltech, and there was some typo on it, and I was like, kind of just taking a pen and wiping it out. I think I got some hamburger grease on the application, and I'm looking at this thing going, this is a waste of time. I mean, there's just this is bad. I mean, I just should throw this thing away. And the application was free, which is part of what I hope you're hearing is these kinds of pivotal things that happen in your life, they kind of look like that. They look like just a razor's edge of a decision. So I thought, should I send this thing? I should throw it away. Well, it's free. So it was the cost of a stamp that I sent it in. So fast forward a couple months, I had gotten into Duke. I had a nice fellowship. I had my life all planned going to Duke. And then one day in my dorm, the phone rings, and they said, it's for you, Nan, somebody from Caltech. And I was like, what? So the person on the other end said, we received your application. We'd like to fly you out to Caltech for 2 days of final stage interviews for a position in our PhD program. Would you like to come? Would I like to come? Yes, I would like to come to Caltech to be interviewed. And so I went to those interviews, and to my great surprise and lifelong debt of gratitude, they offered me a position in the computer architecture group. That year, they did get thousands of applications, and they took very, very, very few people. So Nan, would you like to go to graduate school at Caltech? Yes, I would like to go to Caltech. So I'd never set foot in California before, and nobody in my family had ever been there before, and there was great shock and dismay amongst my family that I was going to do that. But I dove into it. I spent 7 years there getting a master's and PhD in computer science, focusing on the operating systems of a certain type of supercomputer. And right at the end of my tenure there, my advisor had decided to start a company to commercialize the work. And he said, Nan, would you like to come be a founder of this company? And I had my heart set on going back to Alabama at that stage, but I said, yes, I would like to come help found this company. So we started the company, and we had many spectacular ups and a few downs, but we did change the way supercomputing was done. At the high water mark of our products, 40% of the world's supercomputers used our products. It was an unbelievable impact for such a small group. And I wound up moving from coding all the way to the business side. And 15 years flew by like a blur. Before I decided to come to Anderson to fill in what were my obvious gaps in understanding why our business side had never matched the technical side of our success. So halfway through my MBA program in 2010, the board of my company asked me if I would step up to become the CEO. Yes, I said I would become the CEO because the company and people needed me to do so at that time. And that second year of my MBA, you guys can only imagine, the second year of my MBA while being a fledgling CEO was rough. But my classmates held me up, and we got through it together, and I'll be forever grateful to each one of them for that. After graduation, I ran the company for a couple more years, and then Google called. Would you like to do an M&A transaction with Google? Yes, I would like to do a transaction with Google. So I wound up moving to Silicon Valley now 3 years ago, and I joined the group that designs and deploys the data centers all over the world. I did a few things in that group that looked a lot like strategy development and also our strategic planning for the overall division. And when Diane Green, who is a Google board member and well-known in Silicon Valley because she started VMware, joined Google as a full-time manager early this year, I got together with her and she offered me the opportunity to run a new partnering org for Google's enterprise. So would you like to run the partnering org? Yes, I would like to run the partnering organization. So I started in that role about 2 months ago, and it's been a wilder ride than I could ever have imagined. But it is so exciting to partner with companies to do things that the world has never seen before. Not only to be good business, but to transform the world that touches, in Google's case, literally billions of people every day. Working with these partner companies, our collaboration technology, especially our machine learning, which is magic, are in the early days of transforming industries, from medicine to manufacturing to retail, and the list goes on and on and on. So I came to UCLA looking for what I call the equations of business, but instead, from the very first day that I found the other things that made such a bigger difference than any of that. And with no offense to the marketing faculty who taught me the BAS adoption curve, or the economics faculty who taught me that marginal cost equal marginal return, and that was the most important thing that we would learn, and the finance faculty who taught me all about the WACC. What I found at UCLA has stayed with me, and I want you to hear the things I learned here that made the biggest difference. I found that leadership is a real thing. In Professor Lewin's Leadership Foundations class, I found that leadership, particularly in times of change or crisis, is profoundly important. It's not just something you read about in a CEO's memoirs. From that moment, in my experience, in times of crisis and change, I've seen it over and over and over again. It's leadership, and the fact that it's visible, and the fact that it's relentless in communicating the vision and direction that makes the biggest difference, and in fact is many times the only difference between success and failure. I also learned the importance of diversity of thought. I learned in my study group that having a team of very talented but very different style thinking made us so much stronger and more capable as a team. To that point, I'd only been trained with Caltech people, and I could here how narrow that viewpoint was and how many problem solutions we would never see if that were the only voice in the room. At Google, building this diversity of thought is known to be the difference between success and failure for so many of our products, particularly those that span the globe across geographies and cultures that lack so many of our infrastructure and resource advantages. I also learned here how to make decisions with incomplete and imperfect information, and it's necessary and okay to do so. As a trained technical person, I learned how to let go of that paralyzing mindset of, I just need a little bit more data to make the right decision. You have to let that go, especially in business. All of my prior experience in school and at my startup, together with the totality of what I learned at UCLA, melded together in a worldview that changed the way I made decisions in my life and career. So by now, I've expected you've latched on to the way of thinking this works so incredibly well for me and that I want to commend to you. Say yes. But it's more important, it's deeper than that. I've been so unbelievably fortunate in my opportunities that I've been given in what I call leaps. They feel to me like that moment standing up high above the ground at the high trapeze in a circus. And by my count, I've had at least 5, which is bewildering to me. From Alabama to Caltech, from Caltech to the startup, to becoming the CEO, to Google, and now taking on this large role at Google. So when you're looking at one of these leaps, when I'm looking at one of these leaps, I say to myself, how do I know this is a leap? How do I know this is a really big thing? The easiest way to tell is you look at it and you say, this could be a disaster. This could be the moment where everyone says, should have stayed where you were, too far. Okay, so then you kind of know you're looking at a leap. And I knew that when I was leaving Alabama to go to Caltech. I was respected at Alabama. People thought I was doing a great job there. What happens if I go to Caltech and fall flat on my face? This could be a disaster. And facing that up front and making the decision in spite of that is what I commend to you. When you make those decisions from what could it be like, I could be at Caltech, even if I'm not the top student, and I assure you I was not. I get to hang out, meet Richard Feynman, see Linus Pauling. These are things that the crowd that you're in, the team that you're around is worth way more than you being at the top of whatever list. The secret to making these leaps is no secret, but it's still hard to make yourself launch out into that open void. Just as with the trapeze, you have to be relentlessly prepared, both in training and experience. The UCLA MBA was so essential for that training for me. It's infused every hour of every workday. I kid you not. People ask me sometimes, so do you ever use your MBA? And I'm like, only every hour of every day. It's just amazing how I could not function, would not be where I am without it. For those of you early in your career in life, please latch on to the fact that what I do for a living now existed in no form when I was going to school originally. It did not exist, working at an internet giant when there was no real internet. So you have to relentlessly prepare for things you cannot yet envision. You have to prepare for them by doing the absolute best you can with what you're doing now and continuing to point your efforts in directions that energize you and yet are consistent with your values, what's important to you, not important to other people, what's important to you. You have to have the right timing to see the opportunity and leap to grab it. And you really need to have the right team around you to have some really astounding impact. And then you have to leap, knowing that you could fall and you could fail. If you do all those things every now and again, you'll get an exhilarating ride to an amazing place with inspiring people around you and a world-changing mission. When Dean Olean invited me to speak at this event, I reached out to my classmates. As much of why I'm here in the first place is due to them. I solicited their words of wisdom to share with you all. Their consistent advice to you is stay in contact with your classmates. There are a wealth of opportunities and wisdom. Go to the reunions. Share the ups and downs and help each other. Many of my classmates have in the past 5 years gone on to roles at new companies, been promoted, switched careers, started companies, sometimes with each other, and they've helped celebrate the life milestones of their families. Our group continues to get together every year, reconnecting about how our lives and careers have continued to unfold. I hope that your class will continue to nurture the bonds that you've formed here. In closing, it is that shared experience that you carry forward with you. I sincerely hope that each of you finds yourself now prepared for the opportunities that will come before you. Continue to relentlessly prepare, be vigilant, watching for and developing opportunities, get the right team around you, and then leap. Again, congratulations on the major achievement of completing your MBA. All best wishes for your future success in your careers and in your lives. Thank you.